A brand new Poppy Playtime game has just been officially discovered, seemingly revealing their next spin-off they're working on right now, and some info about it we're going to talk about, along with some theories on when it could release, and even why I think this officially marks the end of Poppy's other game, Project Playtime. So to catch you guys all up to speed, all the way back in March of this year, the Poppy Playtime developers started listing job offers asking for senior 2D pixel artists, where in the description they were requesting new workers that could create things like pixel art assets of characters, creatures, environments, objects, and detailed tile maps through Unreal Engine using the Paper 2D and Paper ZD plugins, which are used to create 2D games, clearly suggesting that at that moment, Mob was starting to develop some kind of 2D video game, although they didn't clarify anything about what it was specifically, and with the devs talking about wanting to make other non-Poppy games in the past, we all assumed this was them working on another unrelated project to expand the brand, which we've seen them do before. But then, just a few weeks later, they had listed another job offer, this time for music creators in the chiptune style, which is basically the kind of music you hear in every 2D pixel themed game. And here, they gave us a very interesting clue in the job description that requested the workers to develop a chip synth inspired soundtrack that blends the Poppy Playtime universe's sonic style with a 90s era game music aesthetic, and rearrange and adapt existing motifs and compositions from previous Poppy Playtime games to fit the retro action aesthetic of our upcoming release. Basically saying they want someone to make 8-bit versions of iconic songs from Poppy Playtime. So this confirmed not only that this pixel game is going to be a 90s classic 2D style title, but specifically that it was going to be a Poppy Playtime game, essentially confirming they are working on a spin-off related to the title, which is obviously huge. But despite us finding all of this information out just through Mob's job offerings, this was basically all of the public knowledge we had on the project. We knew it existed, and while we could speculate on what it was going to be, we didn't really have any other info other than that. That is until today, I believe, as last week the Poppy devs have trademarked a bunch of different names, which, if you didn't know, trademarking is essentially a company claiming ownership of a name so that way other people don't steal their work. Now, most of the names listed here are just old names like Miss Delight or the Prototype, which doesn't mean anything most of the time. I don't know exactly how trademark law works, but I assume they keep refreshing these so that way they don't expire after time. They've also been seen refreshing old names like Mob Games, which they haven't used in years, which I assume is for the same reason. However, in all of these trademarks, there is one very interesting new one that we have never seen before called Poppy Play Park, which is described as some kind of entertainment service. And this is extremely interesting because if you don't remember, back in chapter 3, right by the train station, we saw a bunch of posters advertising a new playtime park of some sort that since then hasn't ever been mentioned in any future chapters or teasers, at least until now with this trademark name, which has given people two different theories on what this could be for. For one, some people think this could be related to chapter 5, as it's obviously the next chapter in the game, so it would make sense that if there's a location named a Poppy Play Park or something inside of it, they would be developing and working out all of the legal stuff right now. Although this is doubtful because we already know chapter 5 will take place in the labs, and while it's possible there could be multiple locations in the chapter, they've never trademarked the names of any other in-game locations before in the past, so that doesn't really make sense. While the second and more obvious theory is that this could be the name of the new 8-bit game mentioned earlier. I mean, we see they are clearly developing that title right now from all of the job listings around the same time of this trademark, and the title is a play on words of the main game's title, Poppy Playtime, kind of like their other spin-off, Project Playtime, which we'll discuss in a moment. So it seems pretty obvious to me anyway that this is going to be the title of the 8-bit pixel game they have just recently started working on. But then, with this being said, what will the game be about and when could it end up releasing? Well, in terms of what it's about, we are still left with mostly speculation, but we at least know for now that the game will of course be related to the park in some way. And while we don't know exactly how yet, if I had to guess, this game will likely be an in-universe game made by Playtime Co in the 90s, judged from the previous job description specifically targeting a 90s era style that might have been potentially made made to advertise or draw attention to the actual park and factory tours by making a video game about it when video games were first getting super trendy, and Playtime Co, like with any other trend, would want to hop on it. This would especially make sense since, as we said, they plastered like a dozen of these posters right by the Playcare train station, suggesting this was a massive project they were working on, justifying something like a video game. Plus, when it comes to what will actually be in the game, while we can predict all of the various mascots are going to make some kind of appearance, among all of these trademarks that Mob has filed for various different names, there is one that is still unexplained. Something called Playtime Automated Companion, a trademark that was filed all the way back in 2024, leading to people believing it was going to be in Chapter 4, only for that to release and this character nowhere to be found. However, now with this new game leak, it makes me wonder if these two are somehow related. Maybe this character will be for a tutorial or will be our companion moving throughout the game, and could also possibly be the main mascot if true, as we've seen with every other Mob release that they like to add a new character to go alongside it for marketing. I'm not sure, but comment your predictions down below. But in terms of when the game will actually release, this is where I think things get pretty interesting. See, removing this spin-off game from the equation entirely for now, we know the next main chapter game is Chapter 5, most likely the final game where we will take out the prototype and save the orphan children, ending that storyline. It's probably going to be by far the largest and biggest budget game we have gotten so far, so naturally it would need to take the most time, especially since, as you may remember, people were actually pretty upset with Chapter 4 for seeming rushed and like they didn't have enough time to finish it. So now the devs are stuck with the dilemma of needing to build this huge high budget game while also keeping the hype and excitement for Poppy Playtime up while it's being developed. They have tried to solve this dilemma with their other spin-off game, Project Playtime, during Chapter 3's development, but with it being a multiplayer game, it took months of constant work and in the end only ended up setting them back more than anything. But this time, I think to buy them some more development time, this new spin-off is going to work as the buffer, releasing in between Chapters 4 and 5 to buy them some more time to work on the final product, meaning hopefully a better Chapter 5 in the end. So we can reasonably expect that this game is going to be the next Mob release. But in terms of a specific time, the best estimation we can make is that these trademarks were filed in April 2025. And conversely, Chapter 4, which was more than likely a bigger and longer to develop game that was released in January of the following year, didn't get its trademarks filed until May, meaning that I'm pretty confident that this game is going to release at some point later this year, especially since a few weeks ago we also learned a new Poppy Playtime book is going to be releasing at the top of 2026 right in January, and obviously they probably wouldn't want to release a book right before a new game release with new lore information that would make it outdated, so I can't imagine the game drops any later than the very beginning of January. And call me crazy, but looking at this release timeline, I also think this might give us a good idea on when Chapter 5 will also release. Since giving them a few extra months of development plus marketing, we can make a super rough estimation that it might release towards the end of 2026, conveniently right around Poppy Playtime's 5th anniversary. And I'm going to make a Hail Mary here and say that I think it would just make perfect sense to drop the final 5th chapter to the game on the 5th anniversary when it all started. I'm calling this way too early and I doubt even they know when it's going to release, but it would be cool if this is right. However, unfortunately, no matter how you shift it by a few months or so, you can see there's no room for Project Playtime. Their other spin-off I mentioned previously that was originally meant to take the role of the buffer in between chapters, but again was abandoned because it took too many resources. And sadly for Project fans, this new game sounds to me like it's meant to fully replace its spot. Meaning, at least in my opinion, I think it's pretty safe to say there's no space for that game getting any updates in the next couple of years. I mean, they've literally chosen to develop an entirely new game in between chapters instead of just updating their already created one they've had for years. So that gives me the impression Project Playtime might unfortunately be fully gone. But comment below what you think about all of these predictions and what you thought about this more speculation styled video on one news topic. I wanted to try something new, and I'm curious to see how well or badly this prediction ages.